Hey folks, it's Rob and welcome back. This week we start a new item based on popular vote. Uh, we have the Monstrous Compendium Appendix for the Mystara setting, which was also known as the Known World setting for the Beckme set. And that's why I brought it up as a possibility. Right now I'm going to show you via PDF, but I do have a print copy I've shown on a couple of videos already. And I wanted to make sure that, you guys get the best view of this possible. And I don't want to actually like make my copy just like flat, right? So I have my copy here in front of me, but I'm going to be showing you from the PDF copy. And contrary to all my other recordings, I actually have an affiliate link now for Drive Through RPG. So I'll include that in the description below if you want to get a copy of these rules. Now, this is for the second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules. So I'm going to try to interpret some of this along the way for what we would consider Beckme. But some basic guideline is that this uses a 9-point alignment system instead of a 3-point alignment system. So while Beckme uses lawful, neutral, and chaotic, the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and Second Edition uses uh, good, neutral, and evil permutations of those three alignments. So you have like lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil, for example. And so that makes for more, you know, disparate directives and motivations for the creatures, but it also, as a difference in the rules. Another thing is, second edition was very much into THAC0, to hit AC 0. And we used to have attack type as monster, right? Meanwhile, to hit AC 0, I think is fairly straightforward, even if it is befuddling to the new kids, where you're shooting, this is the number you need to hit AC 0, right? And you can calculate off of that the actual AC target so that you can, modify it for what's actually being engaged. For example, if the THACO was 9, right? And the player character has like a -2 armor class, that would be an 11 you need to roll to hit. Or if the player had a AC of 4 and the THACO was still 9, the monster only needs a 5 to hit your character. So, uh, this episode is just going to be basically me getting started. And getting started is going to be reading some of the introduction material from the book, so I'm afraid we're probably not going to get to a true monster today. But pictured on the front is, one of those in the center there is the black ball. I know that off the top of my head. That's not something you really want to run into, but we'll be getting to it. Uh, so let's get started here. So that was the cover, obviously. Here we have Monstrous Compendium Appendix. This is inside the actual inside cover is blank, so the next page is actually the frontispiece, and is this, which is also attractive. Uh, Quite into the medievally kind of approach to that. Here we have our table of contents. And I'm going to stay on single page view for now, but we can go into double page mode if we need. As some monsters will be occupying more than one page, and I will be setting that up when necessary. So here we have our introduction, and big old illuminated T there. It may not be immediately apparent that that's a T, but it is. This volume holds a host of creatures, both wondrous and horrifying. Each is unique to the Mystara campaign and is presented in AD&D game terms for the first time ever. Of course, other monsters roam the realm too. Mystara is home to many creatures introduced in the Monstrous Manual, a compilation of the original Monstrous Compendium, volumes 1 and 2, plus other creatures. Further, though Mystara is the natural habitat of many of these creatures in this appendix, most could invade naturally any AD&D game world. We've got a multiplanar, multiversal kind of setting, so yeah, we can do that. Um, and yeah, Monstrous Compendium, and the that compendium was basically a 3-ring binder initially with the intention of you inserting stuff. They had kind of given up on that by the time this book had come along. So they're describing the actual compendium volume now. And yeah, this is just like more monsters, right? That's the whole book premise. Text below explains the format in which each monster is presented. Thereafter, you'll find tips for making the most of these monsters in play, especially if you're a dungeon master, DM, facing experienced adventurers who only believe they've seen it all. A note to First Quest game players. So that's like functionally the red box, but for 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons. The descriptions in this appendix assume the reader already owns 2 hardcover AD&D rulebooks, the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. While you'll be able to understand the descriptions of many Mystaran creatures without those books, the deadlier the monster, the more likely it is to boast abilities not covered by the First Quest game rules, like certain special attacks and abilities. So, actually, I have a copy of First Quest. I have not actually done much with it because I wasn't buying that at the time. When that came out, I was already playing 2nd edition since publication, basically. Me and my friends dove right into it. We'd filled in the advanced survey, and we were playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when we weren't playing other stuff. And a lot of my Beck-me life, all that D&D, that was stuff I did in school. My personal friends generally wanted to play AD&D, and we moved to 2nd edition promptly. And yeah, never bought First Quest at the time. Have a copy now. Picked it up on the cheap and was curious about it. It doesn't seem like a bad thing, honestly. But, just I don't have the nostalgia for it because I wasn't there. And honestly, I didn't have this book at the time either. I just had the, Beck-me books. The monsters. Each monster description begins with a summary table covering the following details. Firstly, we have climate/terrain. Indicates where the creature is most often found. Climates indicate Arctic, subarctic, temperate, subtropical, and tropical. Typical terrain includes plains/scrub, forest, rough/hill, mountain, swamp, and desert. In some cases, a range is given. For example, cold encompasses Arctic, subarctic, and colder temperate regions. Frequency. This is the likelihood of encountering a creature in any given area. DMs can adjust these chances for special locations. So, very rare is a 4% chance. Rare, 11% chance. Uncommon, 20% chance. And common is a 65% chance of encountering something in this environment. Organization describes the general social structure the monster adopts. Solitary includes small family groups. Think of like a bear and, 2 cubs, right? Bears are generally very solitary. However, you will occasionally find a mama bear and her cubs, right? And that's until they're grown. And then they go off and be their own bears. Sometimes bears tolerate the presence of other bears as well, mostly because there's like an abundant food resource or something like that, right? But generally, bears like to be alone, right? That's kind of how, solitary works. Activity cycle. is the time of day when a monster is most active. Light is the key for nocturnal creatures. In subterranean settings, they could be encountered any time. The activity cycle listed is a general guideline, and exceptions are fairly common. Diet explains what the creature usually eats. Carnivores eat meat, herbivores eat plants, and omnivores enjoy a diet that includes both. Scavengers primarily eat carrion. If a monster does not fit any of these categories, the substance it does devour are described in the main text. Intelligence is the equivalent of human IQ. Certain monsters are instinctively cunning in combat despite low IQ. Such cases are noted in the monster descriptions. Ratings correspond roughly to the following intelligence ability scores. So, a 0, non-intelligent or non-rateable. You know, it's not that it's a rock, but it really doesn't have any kind of intelligence you can really describe in the sense of what we're used to in any means. Um, a 1 is animal intelligence. So, that can vary a bit. Certain animals are definitely very important and intelligent, even in the same group. Think of dogs, for example. Some dogs are really, really very smart, and some dogs are Irish setters. And I'm sorry to you, those of you out there who love your Irish setters, but you know what I'm talking about. 2 to 4 is semi-intelligent. 5 to 7, low intelligence. 8 to 10, average human intelligence. The system predicates a 9 for a base armor. Right. AD&D predicates a human without any clothing is an AC 10. AC 9 is if you're wearing clothing. And BECME predicates a AC 9 as the base. So, and so are ability scores, right? Generally, the ability score target is a 9 for an average because we're rolling the 3d6, right? So 11 to 12, very intelligent. 13 to 14, high intelligence. 15 to 16, exceptional intelligence. 17 to 18, genius. 19 to 20, supra genius, Wile E. Coyote and all that. And then 21 and above, godlike intelligence. And 21 scores in either AD&D or in BECME are generally not achievable outside of the Immortals rule set. Wishes, multiple wishes are necessary to get to, say, like a 21, or certain magic items may increase strength to, say, like a 20. I think there's like a girdle of like storm giant strength that'll get you super high strength, but we're talking about intelligence here, right? So I don't think there's really anything that'll do that other than a bunch of wishes to get you to, say, a 21 intelligence. Treasure refers to the treasure tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Most treasures are carried by individuals. Treasure types appearing in parentheses are usually found in the lair. If individual treasure is indicated, a single monster may carry it or not at the DM's discretion. Major treasures are usually found in the monster's lair. These are most often designed and placed by the DM. Intelligent monsters may use any magical items present and may try to carry off their most valuable treasures if hard-pressed. If treasure is assigned randomly, roll for each type of possible. If all rolls fail, no treasure of any type is found. Treasure should be scaled down if only a few monsters are encountered, fewer if the typical encounter, that is. Large treasures are noted by a multiplier, times 10 for example. This should not be confused with treasure type X, right? Do not use the tables to place dungeon treasures, since the numbers encountered underground will often be much smaller. Alignment reflects the common behavior of typical specimen. Exceptions, though rare, can be expected. Number appearing, and that's that no again with the dot, right? NO dot, abbreviation for number, basically, even though there's no O in number. I know. uh, indicates average encounter size for a wilderness encounter. The DM should adjust this number to fit other circumstances as the need arises. In a dungeon, for example, the number appearing is lower. Note that some solitary creatures are found in small groups. This could mean one of two things. One, the groups are very small family units. Or two, several individuals happen to be in the same place but not as a cooperative group. For alley cats feasting on the same garbage heap do not work as a pack, for example. Armor class represents armor worn by humans and humanoids, as well as protection due to physical structure or magical nature, and defensive ability due to speed, reflexes, and so forth. Humans and man-sized humanoids that wear armor have an unarmored rating in parentheses. Listed AC does not include any situational bonuses noted in the description. Movement shows relative speed rating of the creature. Higher speeds may be possible for short periods. Humans, demi-human, and humanoid rates are often determined by armor type. Unarmored rates appear in parentheses. For monsters with special locomotion, additional details are provided. Abbreviations include FL, that's flying, SW, swimming, BR, burrowing, CL is climbing, GL is gliding. Be careful reading that. The C and the G look very similar in this font, if you have older eyes like I do. And WB is moving across webs. We now move to the next page. Notations for flying creatures include a maneuverability class from A to E. Class A creatures have virtually total command of their movements in the air. They can hover, face any direction in any given round, and attack each round. Class B creatures are very maneuverable. They can hover, turn 180 degrees in a round, and attack each round. Class C creatures are somewhat agile in the air. They can move less than half their movement rate without falling. They can turn up to 90 degrees in a round and attack aerially once every 2 rounds. Class D creatures are somewhat slow. They cannot move less than half their movement rate without falling, can turn only 60 degrees in a round, and they can make 1 pass every 3 rounds. Class E creatures include large, clumsy flyers that cannot move less than half their movement rate without falling, can only turn 30 degrees in a round, and they can make 1 pass every 6 rounds. See Chapter 9 of the Dungeon Master's Guide for more information. Yeah. So, you get ranging basically from hummingbee to this thing takes a square mile to turn around, right? 30 degrees in a round means it takes 12 rounds for it to turn all completely around, right? To loop back around again to where it started. And it's traveling the entire time because on a Class E, it has to move at least half its movement rate, or it can't, or it falls out of the sky. So, keep that in mind when you're dealing with flying monsters. Hit dice is a rating that determines how many hit points a creature can absorb before being killed. Unless otherwise stated, hit dice are 8-sided for 1 to 8 hit points each. To determine an individual creature's total hit points, a DM rolls the hit dice listed in the monster description and tallies the result. For example, a 2-hit die monster has 2 to 8 hit points. 2d8, right? And I will try to enunciate that a little better. Not 2 to 8, but 2d8. Some monsters have hit point spreads instead of hit dice, and some have additional points added to their hit dice. Thus, the creature with 4 plus 4 hit dice has 48 plus 4d8 plus 4 hit points, 8 to 36 total. Note that creatures with plus 3 or more hit points are considered the next higher hit dice for purposes of attack rolls and saving throws. If the DM does not want randomized hit points, it is easy to calculate average hit points for a monster by multiplying the number of hit dice by 4.5, the average result of an 8-sided die rounding up. The average hit points of 4 plus 4 hit dice monster, for example, is 22. 4.5 times 4 equals 18 plus 4 equals 22. DMs can, of course, modify these numbers at their discretion. For example, a stronger than average 4+4 hit die monster might boast 25 or 30 hit points. I do find it worthwhile to determine the hit points of most monsters you expect that the party to encounter in advance. That way you're not having to do it on the fly, but you certainly can, as long as you have it noted what the hit dice are, for your encounter. Your random monster table, you should have notes for yourself as to what your wandering monster table contains. Thaco. Oh, the ever popular Thaco, which is technically to hit AC 0. Is the attack roll the monster needs to hit armor class 0. This is always a function of hit dice, except in the case of very large, non-aggressive herbivores such as some dinosaurs, or creatures that have certain innate combat abilities. A human or a demi-human always uses a player character's Thaco, regardless of whether they are player characters or monsters. The Thaco does not include any special bonuses, such as those due to strength, noted in the descriptions. Number of attacks represents the basic attacks that the monster can make each round, including special tactics. Monsters that boast multiple attacks often have several limbs or heads with which to pummel, gouge, or bite opponents. Damage/attack shows the amount of damage each basic attack causes. Damage bonuses due to strength are listed as bonus following the damage range. I believe sometimes you'll also see by weapon, in which case, it's going to be determined by the weapon that's equipped by the monster. Special attacks detail attack modes such as dragon breath, magic use, etc. These are explained in full in the monster description. Special defenses are precisely that, and again are detailed in the monster description. Magic resistance is the percentage chance that any magic cast upon the creature will fail to affect it, even if other creatures nearby are affected. If the magic penetrates the resistance, the creature is still entitled to any normal saving throw allowed. Creatures may have resistances to certain spells. This is not considered magic resistance, which is effective against all spells. A creature with nil magic resistance receives any normal saving throw allowed. So magic resistance is something that's definitely we haven't explored yet because it's not part of basic, right? It is, however, in later, I forget exactly when it shows up, probably companion. Some of the monsters are magic resistant. I know the black ball is, I'm pretty sure anyway. And the black ball shows up in the Immortals set. So, I mean, but yeah, basically there's a percentage chance that any spell or magic effect done to the monster has a chance to fail. So, yeah, keep in mind that mechanic. Size is abbreviated as follows. So we have 6 size groups in the rules. T for tiny, 2 foot tall and less. So, an example would be a pixie. Something like that, little fairy. S for small, smaller than a typical human, over 2 foot, but under 4 foot. So that's going to be your halfling. That's going to be your gnome, right? Short dwarf. Some dwarves are over 4 foot, so they get into M man size, which is why they can generally use human size armor when you encounter it, right? And man size is 4 foot to 7 foot, right? So, hey, it's not like there aren't any human beings that are under 4 foot or over 7 foot, but they are quite exceptional, right? Keep that in mind with any of your size descriptions. But basically, these are typical figures, the 99 percentile, right? L is larger than man size. That's 7 foot to 12 foot. That'd be like an ogre, right? Troll, right? H is huge, over 12 foot, up to 25 feet. That's like basically your classic giants, right? You got like a storm giant I mentioned before. And then G, gargantuan, over 25 feet. So, massive dinosaurs, massive dragons, right? Purple worms. I don't know if purple worms are. I don't think purple worms are in this, but purple worms are definitely a classic, gigantic monster from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Most creatures are measured in height or length. Some are measured in diameter. Those measured in diameter may be given a different size category than indicated above. For instance, while a 6-foot tall humanoid is considered size M, a spherical creature 6 foot in diameter has much more mass, so it's considered size L. Now I'm picturing a 6-foot diameter human being that's 6 foot tall, and you don't see that at Walmart every day, but occasionally. Um, okay, enough of the jokes, Rob. Enough of the jokes. This is going to be enough material anyway. Yeah, size L. Similarly, a creature 12 foot long with very slender body, like a snake, might be considered only man-sized. Adjustments like these should not move a creature more than one size category in either direction, right? So, you got like a boa constrictor. Yeah, it's 18 feet long. Okay, that would be huge, but it's fairly thin. It's only like maybe 2-3 feet in diameter. Okay, so let's move it down to large, right? And this is important because some weapons and creatures have advantage over or disadvantage over certain size types. Like halflings will have an advantage attacking larger than man-sized creatures, and so they get a 2-hit bonus, right? So important to know what you're dealing with. Excuse me, I do apologize. Again, I'm continuing with the unedited content despite the higher production value of the PDF today. And we'll be going on with this for a while because this book's like 120 pages, and we're only on page 5. Right. Morale is a general rating that indicates how likely the monster is to persevere in the face of adversity or armed opposition. This guideline can be adjusted for individual circumstances. Ratings correspond to the following ranges. So, 2 to 4, unreliable. Really don't put up with much of anything. Very cowardly, right? 5 to 7, unsteady. 8 to 10, average. 11 to 12, steady. 13 to 14 is elite. Now, 15 to 16 is champion. 17 to 18 is fanatic. And 19 to 20 is fearless. And morale is still determined on a 2d6. This is just, these high-end ones basically accommodate for penalties. And also, situational adjustments. XP value is the number of experience points awarded for defeating, but not necessarily killing, the monster. The value is a guideline that can be modified by the DM based on degree of challenge, the encounter situation, and for overall campaign balance. As noted, the entries above, from climate/terrain to XP value, appear in a summary table at the start of each monster page. The text below this table begins with a short introduction describing the monster's appearance in any language it happens to speak, followed by the sections outlined below. And this is when we're out of the stat block now, and we're now describing how we're going to describe the lower text section. Combat defines special combat abilities, arms and armor, and tactics. Habitat/society outlines the monster's general behavior, nature, social structure, and goals. In some cases, it further describes their lairs, the places they live in, breeding habits, and reproduction rates. So kind of like their ecology, right? But there's also intelligent monsters, and so sometimes it's their society or culture, right? That you can expect. And I'm going to finish reading that section before we get into the DM tips because I am beginning to lose my voice, and I'm sorry about that. Ecology, which I was just talking about actually, describes how the monster fits into the campaign world, lists any useful products or byproducts, and presents other miscellaneous information. Variations of a monster are given in a special section after the main monster entry. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop there. Even though we're approaching only a half hour, but I am afraid I'm losing my voice. So I feel this severe dryness coming on, and you don't want to hear me coughing and gasping or drinking, honestly. So uh, next part, we will carry on from DM's tips. I will try to get the rest of this introductory material out of the way in that part, and then we will actually climb into the actual monsters. So consider this intro part A, and we'll have intro part B, and then we'll actually get into the monsters themselves. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you've liked this content. If you do, I don't talk about this much, but please leave a like or subscribe if you like what I put out. Um, and if you have anything to say, I'm happy to hear it. Please tell me about your experiences with either the Mystara Known World, Beck Me, or with Second Edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I like all of this old school stuff. Um, my old head basically kind of is out of the game from third edition until I briefly stuck my toe into fifth. But then I'm like, actually, I like this old stuff. So, whatever you like, that's fine. I'm not here to judge you. But please feel free to comment and get involved. I welcome any conversation that you want to have. But thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you'll join me as we continue onwards next time. Have a great day. Goodbye.